The Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler are currently going through a divorce, okay? Children of the Heat, fans of the Heat, please, mom and dad, mommy Jimmy and daddy Miami, they're probably going to have a breakup. I know it's been a while. It's going to be hard, but we're going to get through this. They're going to have joint custody, okay? It's going to be okay. But in all seriousness, I think it's pretty obvious at this point that Jimmy Butler wants to be traded from the Miami Heat. And I think the Miami Heat would probably be in their best interest to trade Jimmy now because he is getting up there in age. And he's still an extremely good player, don't get me wrong. But as he gets older, that's only going to make his trade value less and less. And teams are going to want to sign him less and less. So, like, it's probably better sooner than rather than later to trade him. And yes, Jimmy Butler and the Heat have done amazing things together. And I think a lot of fans definitely want to keep Jimmy Butler around because of how good he is and how much success they've had in the past. But at this point, I mean, I feel like they've almost overachieved at the amount of success they've had together. And I'm not sure if they're going to ever be able to get over the hump if they do go the route of keeping Jimmy Butler and mending the relationship. Because look at this. In his 6 years with the Miami Heat, where he joined in 2019 and he's currently there in 2025, he has managed to accomplish an All-NBA second team one time, an All-NBA third team twice. He's made the All-Star game 2 times. He's made All-Defensive second team 1 time. He's made to the Eastern Conference Finals 3 times and won it twice. He's made the NBA Finals 2 times. He did lose them both, but still made the finals despite the odds definitely not being in the Heat's favor both of those years. And he has had 3 different media day haircuts. So, I mean, this shows you all the accomplishments he has had with the Miami Heat. They're pretty absurd, and almost any other player would love to have the track record that Jimmy Butler has had in just these 6 years with the Miami Heat. And this isn't even like considering all the other success he had beforehand. This is just with the Miami Heat, and it's extremely impressive what he has been able to do. But unfortunately, like I said, the relationship between the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler has kind of started to get almost stale in a way. Like, it's becoming like pretty soggy, moldy bread at this point. They've been together a long time. They've pretty much accomplished what they're going to accomplish. Now their core is getting older. Yes, Tyler Hero's getting better, but that's about it. Like, they don't have anyone that has super high upside. I would say Khalil Ware has pretty high upside, but unfortunately the guy who starts above him is Bam Adebayo, so it's going to be really hard to improve greatly at that spot. I do think Ware is going to be very good in the future, but I'm not sure he fits with Jimmy Butler's timeline or is even enough to ever make them a finals contender, honestly. So I think this core and this team has pretty much accomplished what they did, and their time has kind of run its course. And with it getting stale, I think it's almost due for another change of scenery for both the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler. The Heat, because I think they need to build around Bam and Tyler Hero and some of their other young guys like Khalil Ware, and they kind of just need to hit a little bit of a reset button, not really rebuild, but kind of retool. And Jimmy Butler just, I think, would be better off on a more talented contending level team. Because although I think Jimmy Butler is a borderline superstar, especially in the playoffs, he needs to be around other superstar talent. I wouldn't say Bam is a superstar. I'd say he's an extremely high-level, all-star level player. He's a beast. But I wouldn't say he's a superstar. And if you can get him around another like Steph Curry or just another like superstar type player, if you can get around Jimmy Butler around a guy like that, I think that would greatly benefit him and his career, and he could legitimately get that ring that he is so desperately wanting for a very long time now. And that's going to kind of take us to the next part of this video. Now that I highlighted everything that he was able to accomplish with the Miami Heat and why I think it's probably time for a new change of scenery for both sides, I'm going to get into a few potential trade suitors, in my opinion, that I think would be pretty cool destinations. Now, some of these trade destinations are off of other reports, and then other ones are just, the other one, should I say, because there's only 3, is off of just my head that I think would be pretty cool. The first one I'm going to go over is the preferred spots that have been rumored. And the biggest 2 that have been rumored in reports have been the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors. And we're going to start off with the Phoenix Suns trying to make a trade for Jimmy Butler. So the trade package is going to look a little something like this. It's going to include the Phoenix Suns getting Jimmy Butler, Josh Richardson, and Alec Burks, while the Miami Heat would be getting Bradley Beal, Ryan Dunn, and Tyus Jones. Now, hear me out on this trade. As far as the Suns side of things, you're getting rid of Bradley Beal, who really has not fit well with Devin Booker since he's gotten there, and basically since they acquired Bradley Beal, I really wasn't sure how that would even work, because really they all 3 are kind of ball dominant, need the ball in their hands, KD, Bill, and Booker, and I don't see how they work together. Jimmy Butler Butler is so talented. He can impact the game defensively. He's a great hustle guy. He can score when you need him to. He's a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hand, and I think he would fit much better with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker than Bradley Beal does, on top of Jimmy Butler just being flat out better than Bradley Beal. So I think from that perspective, their big three is going to get much stronger, and both sides of the basketball is going to improve as well if they acquire Jimmy Butler. And then on top of that, you're getting Josh Richardson, a very solid veteran who's been in the league for a long time, and then Alec Burks, purely here to make the cap situation work. And then the Miami Heat would be getting Bradley Beal. Now look, I did just say Jimmy Butler is much better than Beal, and I fully believe that, but Bradley Beal is still a very talented player, and getting a guy like Beal to kind of be a bridge player for the Heat is not a terrible situation. You can flip him later for more picks and young guys if you want to. You can try to help him be part of your core because he's still a very solid player. There's a lot of kind of avenues you can go down once you make this trade, and just getting another at least borderline star level player in Beal is always a good thing to have when you're losing a superstar like Jimmy Butler. And then on top of that, you're getting Ryan Dunn, a rookie who, although I'm not the biggest fan of, is undoubtedly one of the best defenders in this rookie class, hands down. Now, yes, his three-point percentage, although right now I think is at 30, is quickly plummeting after his hot start. And we saw this in college. He was one of the worst three-point shooters in college basketball history. He is legitimately a horrible shooter. Now, yes, he's already shown improvement, and there's a good chance that's going to keep improving as his NBA career goes on. But now getting a guy that's so focused on the defensive side of the ball can really develop in a Miami Heat system who loves defense and loves hard work, and I think Ryan Dunn would fit perfectly here with the Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra system, and I just think overall it would fit very well. And then even Tyus Jones kind of fits their system, a very unselfish player, loves to pass the ball, can score if you absolutely need him to, but that's not his role. He's more of a facilitator, and that's exactly what Tyus Jones can do. Now, I think the Phoenix Suns would kind of be against getting rid of him, but if it means getting Jimmy Butler and the only thing holding you back is trading Tyus Jones, I think that they would end up doing that. So overall, I do think both sides are getting better in this situation. The Heat aren't really getting better, but they're setting themselves up for success in the future with a young guy who's going to develop. Bradley Beal you can use as a trade asset or build around, and then Tyus Jones is overall a solid rotational guy, while the Phoenix Suns are getting better right now, getting Jimmy Butler, who would instantly make them a finals contending team and give them edge to it, plus adding a little bit of depth in Josh Richardson and Alec Burks. So I think overall this trade makes a lot of sense, and Phoenix Suns or Miami Heat fans, tell me how you would feel about this trade below. And now the second team we're going to be getting to is going to be the Golden State Warriors. Now, the Warriors are kind of weird because their cap situation makes it to where it is very hard to make a fair trade, especially in the terms of how many players one team gets. So there's probably gonna be a lot of picks involved, and there's only really a few ways to make a trade with the Warriors work. So this is probably one of the most unlikely destinations out of the three teams we're going to discuss. But nevertheless, a trade package that does work would be the Golden State Warriors getting Jimmy Butler and Josh Richardson, while the Miami Heat would be getting Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Gary Payton II, and Kyle Anderson. Now, once again, like I said, if you're wondering why the Heat are getting 4, while the Warriors are getting 2 players, one is because obviously the Warriors are getting the best player in this, but also because it is literally the only way, not the only, but one of the only ways to make the money work. Because obviously, like a lot of you would know, you can't go over the salary cap. So if that happens, you have to add more players to get rid of more salary so you can take in the incoming salary. And this is one of the only ways to do that. So although I don't think this is exactly a super fair trade on both sides, I do think that this is one of the ways that the Warriors would have to go down if they want to get Jimmy Butler on this team. And like I said, due to financial reasons, this is about the fairest it's going to get. And the reason I think this is at least somewhat fair is because the Warriors are adding a star in Jimmy Butler, who once again I think would fit with Steph Curry and Draymond Green perfectly. Could you imagine the absolute menace duo of Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler together? That they would terrify people. Like, they would just be terrorizing the league. Probably the two biggest menaces in the NBA on the same team, starting together. Their defense would be pretty crazy. Their trash talk would be pretty crazy. Just overall, it'd be a pretty damn fun team to watch, just them two on the court at the same time. And then you add those two junkyard dogs with a all-time great like Steph Curry, who can just go out and get a bucket whenever you need him to, is extremely, extremely valuable. And I do think this would be very beneficial to them. And on top of all the depth they're losing, and like Kyle Anderson, Kuminga, and Gary Payton, you're you're also getting Josh Richardson, who should help with your depth a good bit because, once again, solid veteran, can plug in basically any system and at least give you solid minutes night in and night out. Now, the Miami Heat side of things, they're getting Andrew Wiggins, who is, although not on the same level as Jimmy Butler, obviously, is still an extremely solid two-way player, can give you about 20 points a game any night, plays solid defense, and I just think overall Andrew Wiggins would be a very good get for the Miami Heat, and he would honestly fit them pretty well. Then you're getting a very high upside guy in Jonathan Kuminga. Now, the cum bucket, as they call him, is extremely high potential. Now, I've never been the biggest fan of him because I thought he was so raw coming in and basically just an athlete. Now, he does show flashes. Like, every once in a while, he'll go for 30, 40 points on solid efficiency, but then he will go for like 8 points on the worst efficiency you've ever seen. So he still has a long way to go, but fortunately, he's still young, still has a long road to develop, and hopefully, if he does develop into what his potential could be, you could be getting an absolute steal getting Kuminga in this trade. Then Gary Payton II, I just thought he'd be a culture fit for the Miami Heat on top of his money kind of being needed to make it work. I think he would fit very well. He loves defense. He's very athletic, plays very hard. Basically, an ideal Miami Heat culture player. And then lastly, Kyle Anderson, literally only in this trade to make the cap work, is still a very solid veteran. Help you win now. Probably not a long-term piece to the Miami Heat, but I do think Kyle Anderson would be a solid addition, at least for this season, if this trade was to go down. And I think overall, this is about as fair as you're going to get for both these sides. Now, yes, you can add picks. I didn't add picks into this trade, in these trades for this video, but definitely picks could make these trades more fair and very much more even. So I do think that that is going to be a realistic possibility and most likely going to happen if and when Jimmy Butler ends up getting traded to any team in the NBA this year. And the last team that I'm getting to is going to be the San Antonio Spurs.
I wanted to be a cowboy, baby. I want to be a cowboy, baby.
Now, the Spurs are a kind of one of my teams that I think it would just be fun to see Jimmy Butler go to. Now, yes, the Spurs aren't a huge trading team, and that's not really how they like to build up their rosters. They're way more of a a drafting type team than a trading and free agency destination. But still, I think that they could make a pretty big splash here, as I have a package of the Spurs getting only Jimmy Butler, while the Miami Heat would be getting Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes, and Malachi Branham. Now, this, I think, is probably maybe the Heat aren't getting enough and you can throw in picks to make it more fair, but I do think this is a pretty fair trade because the Spurs, they're going to give Wembanyama a solidified superstar teammate to have. Now, yes, I love Devin Vassell. I like Jeremy Sohan. Chris Paul is fine as a veteran, but none of them are other star-level teammates. He doesn't have superstar-level teammates yet, and I think that's exactly what they're giving Jimmy Butler and Wembanyama. I think they both have very similar mindsets and how they approach the game as well, and they have that chip on the shoulder type mentality, and I think they would make them better immediately, as Jimmy Butler is very good on both sides of the ball. The Spurs love defense and fundamental basketball. Jimmy Butler loves that as well, and I just think him and Wembanyama would fit very well together to add on top of the fact that they have Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, Zach Collins, Chris Paul, and a lot of other very solid veterans and role players on this team to make them better now. I think the Spurs would be a very dangerous playoff team if they were able to pull off this trade, while the Miami Heat would be getting Keldon Johnson, who is a very solid scorer, and he's still very young. I think he's like 23, 24 years old, maybe 25 at the most, and he is a pretty damn good scorer. He's one of the more underrated players in the NBA, can give you 20 points any given night, kind of in the Kyle Kuzma type role, I would say. I just think overall, he's a very solid player. Harrison Barnes would be the wing to kind of replace Jimmy Butler and kind of give them a bridge guy. Now, like I said, probably wouldn't be a veteran or long-term piece for the Miami Heat, but he would at least be a stopgap type guy to stop the leaking a little bit and try to fill in the hole as much as possible in the meantime after trading Jimmy Butler. And I think Harrison Barnes would just be a fairly solid player in the short term for this team. And then lastly, Malachi Branham, a very solid young guy who can definitely score the ball. He has his issues on the defensive side of the ball, still very young. His offensive game has shown tons of promise already. And I think overall them getting two young guys and a veteran to help replace Jimmy Butler is not the worst case scenario for the Miami Heat, especially if they can get picks on top of it. And I just think overall this trade would make a lot of sense, and it would make the San Antonio Spurs a very fun team going forward. But unfortunately, guys, that's my first video. So comment below, what team do you think you want to see Jimmy Butler get traded to? Do you think Jimmy Butler is going to get traded? Are your thoughts in the comment section below? And the like point, hit the like button, and subscribe button mean the absolute world to me. And I hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day, so you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.